Hello, everyone. Happy August. We hope you're having a great week. My name is Yulkendy Valdez, Grow with Google Coach, and I'm joined by a very special guest today, Ari de la Cruz from RapidLabz. We're going to talk product development, shipping fast, getting things done. We have a ton of ideas on a given day, and now we have the tools in our disposal to really get out there every day and try to make small steps towards our vision. And the hope today is you walk away with some practical tips to help you launch a new product or service, your website, whatever that is. You have the genius, the tools are there, and you also have the community. Hopefully, you have us on the call. So here's how it's going to work. Addie has an amazing workshop for you all today, featuring strategies on product development and the latest there. And then I'll follow suit with a Grow with Google workshop, teaching you some ways to take Google AI tools to the next level. Anything you can do with a personal Gmail for free. I want just to be here to help you and add new things to your toolkit to help you succeed. And again, if you have more questions after the live stream, we're going to be around. Feel free to reach out. We'll be sharing more resources. Grow with Google has amazing certificates you can have access to. So stay tuned. For the first half, I'll be in the background in the chat reading your comments. So if you have any questions for Addy, just ask him in the chat. We'll make sure he sees it and we'll get your questions addressed. But without further ado, Addy, how's it going? Are you excited?
I'm excited. I cannot wait. Thank you so much, Yulkendy, for this opportunity. We are in some exciting times when it comes to building, but at the same time, I think there needs to be some guardrails, right? Some strategy, and I think that's where we come in. And just super excited to provide some value to the community.
Awesome. Let's do it. I'll go backstage and let you do your thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will go ahead now, guys, and share my screen here. Let's see. There we go. Awesome. You guys should be able to see my screen now. So wonderful. So now we're going to get into this product strategy, a masterclass for AI business owners or just anyone who is trying to really get into building products with AI. Because one of the biggest things that I usually tend to see with people is that you have the idea, but you're not really thinking from a product lens. You're not thinking from a user perspective on how you're going to solve that problem. So today is all about how to stop shipping demos and start building products that people actually use. Now, a little bit about myself. I've been a builder for God knows how long, over 10 years now. And I've worked at Google, Deloitte, and DraftKings, and I've always gotten the experience of building really big products and how that affects us now with AI. But this workshop exists because there's a huge paradox, right? AI has removed the technical barriers to build software now, right? And these tools like ChatGPT, like Claude, like Google AI Studio, right? Various no-code platforms that allow you to go ahead and say, build me something, and within the next couple of minutes, you have something now. But I always like to say this in all my classes and all my workshops and all my master classes with their speed, but speed without strategy creates chaos, right? The thinking barrier still remains, right? You still have to go ahead, and what I like to say is leverage your AI, leverage your authentic intelligence, because the hard truth is this, right? Anyone can build now. Anyone you can think of could build now. My high school kids could build now, right? I just finished doing a 8-week program with high school kids on all things AI. They can build too now as well. But few people know what exactly is worth building right now. And most of AI products fail quickly and quietly is because you're launching your product into the abyss without doing the market research and actually doing the fundamental work of product strategy. So today I'll give you a couple of tips on how to avoid that, so you get some initial interest on your product and actually build a product that's sustainable. And if it's not sustainable, you can pivot. The art of the pivot is key, but it allows you to iterate and continuously build on that product life cycle. Now, this is your reality right now. If you're a builder, if you're new, right, this is your reality. You're adding a lot of features to your product. You're burning out because you're trying to figure out, why is this product not working, right? So you're working hard. You're confusing your users because you don't really know what's the outcome of your users. You don't know what's the goal of your users. And then sometimes what happens is we get this like false confidence of mistaking the shipping speed with the product market fit, right? We thinking that, yeah, we got to go fast because AI goes fast, and we got to ship this fast because, other companies are doing it. Well, harsh truth is, other companies have a lot of money that you don't have, right? So they can make mistakes along the way to spend on marketing, to spend on new talent. You probably don't have the means, right? And you're trying to figure out, how can I ship my product to where everyone can use it, right? Shipping is easy. That's the easy part. The hardest part about all of this is the sustainability and sustaining it long term. And that's where it gets tricky. But how do we solve that, right? Well, there's a few things. Understanding product strategy will give you that clarity that you need, right? Because product strategy is really peeling the layers of defining your specific user with precision. I like to say this is where you have to get surgical with, who are you trying to build your product for, right? And then understand, why does the problem matters right now in this very moment, right? And it doesn't have to be something that you foresee in the 20 years, because things may change, right? Especially with the speed of light with AI, things change tomorrow. But think about right now. What is that pain point that is causing the most friction for you, or for your community, or whoever you're intended to build on, right? Because after that, you need to think about, what are you optimizing for that user or for that product, right? What are the clear success metrics that drives that decision every day, that is going to allow you to have a really successful product? And in addition, what is going to be that stickiness that's going to drive your users time over time to come to your platform? And last but not least, all right, what you intentionally ignore, right? The features, the users, the ideas that you consciously reject, right? These are things that we ignore, because with AI, you could just go ahead and say, "Hey, build me this app," right? But we're not thinking about, how are we organizing our features in a roadmap? How are we actually creating a user experience with the users, right? Are we even mapping the users, right? How many users do we have? Do we have an admin? Do we have a client? Do we have, like, right, like, understanding the classification of users is important, because not every user may have the same access to your product, right? Maybe you have an admin, then you have the client, and then you have the super admin, right? Like, there's just so many nuances that you have to really think about, especially for your product. But within that, there's some common traps that I will love you guys to avoid. There are 5 common AI builder traps. The first one is building features before understanding the pain. You need to understand the pain. You need to understand what exactly is driving people purely insane, that you can now create value and solving that problem. Assuming that you know what a user needs is the fastest highway to hell, to literally not build nothing, right? Like, you cannot assume in this day and age of AI. You need to be really critical and surgical on how you're building and validating at the same time. And that's important, because you need to understand where the market is going. The second one, and this is actually my favorite one, adding AI without a clear advantage. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I'm adding AI and it's AI powered," right? A lot of companies like, "We are AI powered," right? And I usually like to be on the contrary and say, "Well, what happens when AI goes down and you, hypothetically, you can't use your product at that point, right? If you remove AI, you no longer have a product, right?" So what I like to say is, don't aspire to be AI first, but be AI native. Meaning that if AI was to go down, you still have a product. You still have something that is going to drive outcomes for your clients and your users. If you are solely centered as an AI product, your risk appetite goes drastically high at that point, because now you're putting the core center of your product as an AI product, and potentially it could go down. And maybe it may not make sense to your product too, as well, right? So does it make sense to even add AI as your core product? Certain things that I want you to think about as a builder. Third, trying to serve too many users. We see it every single day in social media. We see it with builders where it's like, hey, yeah, I got 10,000 customers, or I got 10,000 new users, right? But sometimes you tend to dilute the value when you're trying to serve too many users, right? If you're trying to be this mega company, start small, right? Start with a community. Start with something that is it's viable and you can actually move the needle with, right? Because your first champions, your first real people who are going to support you are going to be your day one users. Those are the users are going to shapeshift your product time over time. So make that investment there with your first time users rather than trying to reach for the moon and try to get 2 million users. Like that doesn't make sense. Validate, understand where your users are struggling at, and then invest in them because they're going to invest back in you. Um, Speaking of validation, activity, social media has honestly blurred the lines with what we can do now with AI. But in addition, it has blurred the lines of validation, right? Often you see a lot of tech influencers saying, yes, I have 10K MRR, or I have, 5K, users, right? But then you hear about this product they built and then no longer have users, right? So don't confuse social media engagement with actual product usage, right? Just because your first app got 1,000 pings one time doesn't mean that it's been used 1,000 times consecutively. That just means that they just saw what you have now, but did they stay there? Did they create an account? Are they using your product, right? So don't mistake those activities because that could also be very confusing. And then last but not least, prioritizing impressive technology over genuine utility. Like be genuine with the utility that you're providing. Make sure that it's useful. Make sure that it has sustainability over time. Yes, there's been cool viral apps that go viral, right? That's the key word, viral, right? Once the wind and the dust pass by, that's it. They're no longer viral. It is no longer sustainable. So do not confuse cool with useful because it needs to be viable and needs to be genuine utility. Because at the end of the day, AI is not the value. AI is not the value. You can argue with me in the chat. It is not the value. AI is leverage, meaning that users don't want sophisticated models. They don't want clever prompts. They don't want autonomous agents, right? People who are not in this world, they don't want these sophistication. They just don't. They just want us to solve their problems, right? Users want less friction in their daily work. They want faster decision making with confidence. They want to have some type of emotional relief with whatever they're going through on a day-to-day basis. Now, one thing I didn't put in this slide that I want to add, that one of the biggest things you can learn right now if you're building a product, now it's not only product strategy, but it's human psychology. Because human psychology is forever changing on how we approach products. One day I was having a conversation with someone at a conference and I asked the entire room, I said, what are your daily habits from the moment that you wake up? Right. And often a lot of people said, I pick up my phone. Right? I pick up my phone. Some of them said, "Oh, I check my Gmail. Oh, I check TikTok. Oh, I check Instagram. Oh, I check social media. I check this. I check that." Right? What about those things? What about those apps that has changed the human behavior to pick up the phone and immediately go to TikTok or immediately go to Gmail, right? What about those apps is driving that person every single day for that to be their defaulted app every single morning? So think about that, right? Think about how you can create a way in a healthy way too, right? Not in a very like trying to trap somebody, right? But also if you're solving a problem, it needs to make sense. But think about how are these other companies doing it? And what type of human behavior they're tapping into that they get continuously user stickiness for their product. Is it solving a problem? Is it feeding into the emotional relief? Like what is it, right? And I want you to think about that as you're thinking about building your product. But when does AI actually make sense? Because AI needs to be earned, right? It needs to be earned and then placed in your product when it accomplishes at least one of these outcomes. It has to do at least one of these outcomes, right? Does it accelerate an existing painful task, right? Meaning that does this takes the users to do something already that they've been doing and make it 10 times faster, right? So if it doesn't make it 10 times faster and it makes it 10 times slower or 5 times slower or 1 time slower, then maybe we don't need AI to accelerate anything, right? Then thinking about expanding on what was previously impossible. What was impossible before that we can do now, right? Because what you want to do when you're building a product, you want to enable those capabilities for those users and simplify, right? Simplify. AI is not meant to complicate things, but for some strange reason, we tend to complicate things because we think that is cool. No, we're building for users. We're not building for self. So if we're not building for a simple quality user experience, then what are we actually building for? Right. And then last but not least, simplifying something complex or expert only, meaning that it democratizes the knowledge or skills or required or training or whatever it is that you're trying to have your users learn or understand. AI needs to simplify that. And if it doesn't and it makes it 10 times difficult, then again, we need to think about how are we leveraging AI and implementing it in our product. So a question to consider, which one is your product actually doing right now? And be honest, right? So if it's not doing any of these three, at least one, then we have to reconsider as to when AI actually makes sense in your product. So I spoke about this previously, and I'll kind of bring us back around here again. Between the two differences of being AI ready and being AI first, right? So AI already enhances existing workflows, it makes it better, but it doesn't replace the core value, right? The product still works without AI, meaning that there's a lower risk approach. There's a lot more faster validation cycles in your product development life cycle, being able to ideate, test, and iterate based on feedback. It's easier to pivot because now you're not married to this core idea of AI. And it's honestly a more forgiving learning curve as the product gets more sophisticated. Now, if you are AI first, some things that you need to consider is that AI is the core value of your engine. And without it, there's no product, right? So there's higher risk, but also there's higher upside. And when I mean higher upside from an investment perspective, from a funding perspective, getting acquired. Um, right now, we're going through a phase where a lot of companies are getting acquired. So of course, this requires more deeper AI expertise, more capital intensive. And of course, you need to be different than any other product that is out there. So ideally having a bigger potential moat that is doesn't exist in the marketplace right now. The most successful builders start AI ready first, right? Because you get a understanding to evolve your product, and if your product just stays at AI ready, then that's okay. But if you pivot into AI first, know that these are some of the risks that you do run into. Now, these are some good risks, right? If you have the appetite for it, I tip my hat to you. So, strategy starts with a moment. It doesn't start from it being something that just happens, right? It happens from a moment, and strong products are built around moments, right? A moment is a specific point in time when the users have an acute pain or a need, right? And some of that could sound like I'm completely overwhelmed and I don't know where to start. I need answers fast, but this is really slow, right? I'm stuck and I'm frustrated, right? Like these are moments that create your product. So focus on those moments, and those moments are happening in real time right now on social media. Believe it or not, these are data points that are literally available for us to leverage and build products around that, right? Features support moments like this, right? Every capability should directly address the core pain point. If it's not addressing a pain point, you're just building to build. These moments create more retention because these moments are relatable. More people can relate to them. Like, hey, I was having that same issue too. Like I felt completely overwhelmed with my bank account. I'm going to go to this bank account now, right? So it's all about leveraging a moment of pain to create retention for your product. From a jobs to be done builders lens, right? And I'll make this as easy as possible for you guys to digest, right? People don't hire products for tools, right? They hire them for the progress to move from their current state to a better one, right? So your product is competing against a lot of things, right? One, it's competing against doing nothing, right? The path of least resistance, right? Meaning that if you have a product and I'm not really interested, then I'm probably not going to do anything, right? I'm not going to bother with it, right? But then your product is also competing against simple alternatives, maybe a note app, maybe a Google Doc, maybe a spreadsheet, right, with information in it. Your product could be potentially going against human solutions, right? Asking a friend, a colleague, a mentor, right? Um, or just giving up entirely and deciding that the problem isn't worth solving for, right? If your product doesn't deliver a significantly more progress than these alternatives, then it won't survive, right? You need to think about outside of the box on how you're going to provide what I like to say a white glove experience to your users, right? And when I say white glove, it's because it needs to be tailored to them. It needs to be done with intent to really solve that pain point, right? If I can say, man, I wish there was an app where I can find the coolest sneakers, I could just probably ask my friend, right? So what's the difference between my friend and this cool app, right? And that's where you have to really get um really creative on this problem that you're trying to solve and the nuances on why your product is a lot better than me asking Tony from around the way about sneakers and his solution on that, right? So think about these things when you're building your product from a builder lens. So I really like this framework. Use this framework to evaluate any product idea, right? If you can't score at least 4 out of 6, it's not a product just yet, right? So the first is the specific user. Can you describe exactly who this is in one sentence? If you can answer that, good job. You got it. What is the immediate pain, right? Is the problem causing friction right now, not someday? Is it right now? Is it in this moment? Because if it's not, then you're just building in the future. And sometimes it's a hit or miss. Guaranteed outcome. Can you promise a specific outcome every single time? Right? Because if so, you need to understand, will this user need this several times a week, a day, right? Is it needed repeatedly? AI advantage. Does AI make this significantly better than alternatives? Does it make it better? Do I have an AI advantage? It's okay if you don't, right? Because at least 5 out of 6, you still have a product. AI is just a plus, right? And then last but not least, low friction to first value, right? Can users experience this in less than 5 minutes? And that's important because honestly, our attention span is like a squirrel nowadays. You get to a page and like you trying to figure out what's next. You want to minimize that timeline between a decision and execution. All right. So I'll leave this up here for a quick couple of seconds so you guys can take a screenshot. You guys will have the recording of this, but the signal frameworks helps a lot. So some weak and strong framings for you to start building, right? A weak framing of your product could sound like AI that helps founders brainstorm ideas. Eh, it's too broad. The outcome is unclear. There's no specific trigger moment for me. But if you use voice first AI that turns messy founder thoughts into clear next actions, I might say, you may be onto something because I, as a founder, I have a lot of messy thoughts. And sometimes it's hard to put them into clear next action. So um, it's one of those things where back to the drawing board, exactly, Javier. Right. It's one of those things where you need to go ahead and really articulate exactly the clear users, the clear trigger points, and the clear outcome. And only if AI is necessary. Validation without over engineering. I see this a lot, and I'll keep this brief. You don't need to go ahead and perfect everything right away, right? What you need right now before engineering or over engineering is have real conversations with people, 5 to 10 people who have the same pain points, right? What are the repeated pain signals? Can someone ask, right? How can I use this, or when can I use this, right? Are users describing their problems in their own words, right? That's important. And then also thinking about the evidence. Is there evidence that can support this before I go into building mode, right? Because you can build the fancy UX, you can build the fancy landing pages, you can build the fancy beta wait list. But if you're not having conversations about this problem you're trying to solve, it is going to be very, very difficult to solve the problem. So talk to people. I challenge you. Have you talked to anyone about your idea outside of Twitter or LinkedIn? And if you haven't, get in those rooms and start having those conversations. MVP means moment of proof. Will this person come back? Right? You're proving if they're going to come back and validate your one fundamental question about retention and value. Right? Will this person come back? Is this scalable? Is it complete? Will they return? Right? These are questions that you do have to ask yourself when you're building, because if you're not asking these critical questions, then you're going to be building and wasting money. That's the hard truth. And it makes it so easy to build and not ask these critical questions. And this is where you start and asking questions that are hard, right? These are questions that AI cannot answer for you. This has to come from self, right? And if you're not in alignment with self and understanding what your product offering is and understanding will they come back, then you have to go back to the drawing board. Now, there's nothing wrong with going back to the drawing board. All right, let me just make that very clear. If anything, AI has made it extremely easy to go back to the drawing board, but you also don't want to focus too much time there. Some early metrics that matters, right? I would say that in my experience, some early metrics that matters is the time value, right? How quickly do users get their aha moment, right? What is the repeated usage? Are they coming back within 7 days? The user language, are they saying that this helped me or this is cool? Personally, I don't want people to say that this is cool. I don't, if this is cool, then that means that you're going to move on to the next. If it helped you, then how can I amplify that? Right? Because I'm in the business of helping people. And the gap between cool and helpful is where most products die. Right? Oh, this is cool. Honestly, when I first built my first product when I was 23, someone said, "Oh, this is cool," and I cringed. I was like, "Ugh, no, I don't want it to be cool. I wanted this to help you out," and clearly it didn't do that. So I had to go back to the drawing board, right? Um, at first, ignore the daily active users, ignore the vanity metrics like signups. I would say the social media hype, ignore it. Really focus on that core value that you're trying to engage with your users. That's important. That goes a lot further than these vanity metrics. Once you get your core users and you have active users and you have 10,000 plus, then you focus on the daily active users, the vanity metrics like the signups. You go ahead and create your go to market to create some hype. That's where it matters. Not right now, especially if you're still trying to build that thing. Strategy is subtractive. Good strategy at that, right? Because good strategy isn't about what you add, it's also about what you remove, what you extract. And sometimes that can look like removing features, removing users, removing the idea that you thought was nice to have to now need to have, and then removing those assumptions, right? Challenging every belief that isn't validated by a real user. This also looks like strategy, right? Strategy oftentimes is like, oh, well, what can we add? What can we add? But sometimes we don't really think about the simplicity of, well, what have we just subtracted, right? I always like to go by this less is more, because there's a I don't know, there's just a sophistication aspect of it, of just minimalism and just like really getting to the core. Um, we are at time. It is 11:30, and I would love to continue this. If you guys have more questions, please feel free to go ahead and shoot me a DM. I'll put my information in the chat. Yulkendy, thank you so much for your time. I'll sit around here and kind of just listen to what you got to say. But this is really dope, and me just sharing out loud some key things in product strategy.
Definitely, if you want to, I know we got to transition over, but if you want to do some, go to your closing slide, last minute takeaways, and also in the chat, we'd love for you to share more resources where folks can find you or RapidLabz. But this has been a great presentation. I have been taking lots of notes because I think, again, we jump to the implementation and don't think through why we're making certain decisions. So the steps you laid out are extremely important.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think I'll close it out with this, right? When you're sharpening your idea, put that signal framework. And I think honestly, that was like the biggest key thing there, the signal framework into practice, right? Share your idea with someone and really verbatimly go down the list, asking the specific person experiencing this pain, what pain does it solve? And then what outcome are you trying to create, right? We're here to sharpen your idea, not to pitch. Too often we mix both on the idea. Now I'm just trying to pitch it. No, sharpen your idea first, sharpen your product first, and then pitch it out. The goal is clarity first and then validation. And I will leave you with that.
Mic drop. Thank you so much, Addy. Love to continue this collaboration. Your work is incredibly important. And yeah, please join us in the backstage. Leave us with some resources. And thank you so much. Now, everyone, I'm about to share my screen over here, and we're going to get started with the Grow with Google workshop. As the same with Addy, feel free to leave comments, ask me questions, direct me anywhere you want to go. I want to make this time extremely helpful to you all, because the reality is that we hear about AI everywhere. But the reality is we need to make it useful for our own day-to-day, for the space that we're building in. You know, someone else that you know might be using AI in a completely different way, and that's okay, because what matters is that you build your own playbook to success, and that's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Yulkendy Valdez. For those that joined late, I am the Northeast coach with Grow with Google, which means I spend a lot of time with business owners, creatives, community builders, or those that just have an idea on a napkin and are trying to figure out how to build or a side hustle in addition to their 9 to 5. And we spend a lot of time thinking through how AI can help us save time and money. And the reality is I'm learning right along with you. I'm also a small business owner myself. I'm the founder of a technology company called Healers Health. We help youth and families enroll in vital government benefits, from food to housing to sports programs, arts programs. So I'm all about building technology for good. Tell me what you're building in the comments as well, and make sure to follow up, and let's be in community together. I also want to hear from you as we go along, because it's super important that we start with your most burdensome task. Like, if you reflect, it's already Wednesday. What have you been doing this week that has been taking you additional time that you wish you could have spent somewhere else? Because that's often the things that we have to think through. One, can I hire another human? But a lot of us, we might be tight for funding, for cash flow. So that's where AI can come in. It's like, hey, can I automate some of these pieces, because this is clearly not working. This is taking me 3 hours. So always start with those, writing down those tasks and figuring out the ROI there of you doing it, or the opportunity value of delegating a little bit. And as you think of those tasks, happy to help you think through how Google AI tools can help you and save some real time, so you can get back to what you do best, which is building relationships, building great products that have a huge impact, like the ones Addie was talking about early on. But before I get to even the Google AI tools and doing some fun demos, I always love to talk about prompting. We all have different levels of how we've been interacting with AI, but the reality is that these tools can read our minds yet, just like how we manage other humans or how we work in collaboration. We have to communicate as much context as possible. We have to do projects in phases and give the AI as much detail about your current process so it understands the starting point and can give you a better personalized output. And we can avoid that AI slop, right? That the work that really is generalized and wouldn't be meaningful to you. Or again, a hallucination is another term that we're hearing, where the AI, you don't know where it's getting its information. It might not always get it right. So again, you have to be in the driving seat, making sure you're reviewing those outputs and improving your prompts so you're getting more results that align with your initial goals in mind. And then I want to really talk through, once we have these solid prompts, how can we turn them into systems? So you're not just prompting in and out like a chatbot. These tools have so much more capabilities where you can build custom assistants that you can use day in and day out for your most common workflows. You can also build notebooks with Gemini Notebook, where you can actually store your actual business knowledge. Let's say we're talking a lot about product today, your product roadmaps, anything about your industry, and really get good collateral from that, such as creating presentations, mind map, audio podcasts. So you have these living active documents that you can always track and get the latest information on and share with others. So I'm excited to go through all that. And if we don't get through all of that today, I always end with some resources that are free, provided by Grow with Google, so you can continue your learning via Coursera or our YouTube page. Without further ado, let's get going. How many of you have used Gemini? Gemini is Google's personal AI assistant, is the best of its family of large language models. And it's built on the tools and products we love the best from Google. You can now see Gemini when you go and do your Google search. Gemini also lives in Gmail, in your Google Sheets, your Google Docs, to really help you edit and revise your documents, your spreadsheets without having to go anywhere. And it's cool because it can know your business, it can get a little noisy, and it can get smarter to give you personalized output because it's connected to your calendar. So it can help you make decisions about your day-to-day. Some people are not ready for that. The good news is that you can turn that on and off. That's called personalized intelligence and Gemini. So you choose, but Gemini is a great tool if you're already using other apps in the Google ecosystem. And what we love about these Gen AI tools like Gemini, I'm sure you heard this term before, is that they're multimodal, right? They just don't work as a chatbot. They're simulating the human experience. And we work across multiple senses, right? So you can actually convert text into images with our fun tool. Nano Banana is our imaging model. Make sure you check it out. We also have VO3 for video. You can turn images into images, text into images, images into video. You can actually create code and do vibe coding. So actually follow on the gems that Addie was providing. So once you have a product strategy, product roadmap, you can start building and doing some fun testing with your initial customer base. And you can also turn audio back into text and images. Fun use case that I've been doing, for example, around thinking through product roadmap and prioritization connected to Addie's presentation. My team just a month ago, we had a huge retreat where we discussed learnings on the ground for customers. And we got really creative. We had all these product ideas laid out in sticky notes, in a board. We were using a classroom. And that can be overwhelming to synthesize all of that. So we took pictures of the board, the sticky notes that were spread on our table. And I said, hey, Gemini, these are all the notes, our sticky notes and the board for our team retreat. Can you help create a product roadmap based on the meeting notes and the audio recording? And Gemini was able to prioritize the product features that we deem most important based on our recent customer conversations. Something that would have taken an entire week before to review and synthesize, our team had an actionable document by the next Monday to really get started. So this is a good way to think through how to maximize Gemini through its multimodal functionalities. In our personal life, I hear a lot of folks are using it to create personalized recipes by taking pictures of what's inside their fridge, or even with supplements, organizing, taking pictures of all the instructions, and Gemini can help you create a weekly plan. So it's really a good way to make ourselves more productive, both in our personal and professional lives. So make sure you're using it to its full capacity. And once we think about the security and privacy, if you're already using Google Workspace, the Gemini comes with that same level of privacy and security you need. And again, it's always that Gemini sparkle right in the right, where you can go and within Google Docs be able to create new documents without having to leave to a separate tab. Another feature that I love about Gemini is Gemini Live. Essentially, this simulates a human conversation. So when you don't have access to Addie or myself or one of your business mentors, you have a random idea at the middle of the night or where you're in between meetings, you can enter live mode with Gemini. So if you haven't, download the app for free. It works with every phone. And what I like, again, is the connectivity, where I can really use Gemini on the go. So I'm going to show you here with my Pixel, an example. Hi, Gemini. I just had an amazing team meeting. We were discussing product and the roadmap and thinking through what we want to prioritize. We need to have a part 2 meeting regarding product. Can you block some time for our team to meet next week?
I'd be happy to help schedule that product meeting for next week. How long should I block out? And is there a specific day or time you prefer?
Yes, let's do afternoon, 2 p.m. and let's block out 2 hours because we have a lot to talk through.
Which day next week works best for your team to hold this 2-hour product meeting?
Awesome. And I can continue that and on, but it essentially creates an automatic calendar invite. And it's something that I don't have to go back to my computer to help schedule. It can assist me on the go and help me get things done. So I love going Gemini Live and having a conversation. And I could continue that and actually get the latest product strategy advice from Gemini. Awesome. We're also going to go into the desktop version in a second. Just wanted to show you other fun functionality. But before we do that, want to review prompting as promised. So what is prompting? Is essentially how we engage with Gemini. How do we give it a specific instructions so it can achieve what we want it to do? Again, we are the boss here, not the AI, and we want to be in control of that experience. And to do that, Google has a 5-step framework that it recommends, starting with 1, the task. Tell it exactly what you want it to do. Help me create a new website. But remember, before you jump into the other parts of the prompt, a task has other 2 important subcomponents, which is the persona and the format. The persona, you gotta tell Gemini what type of human expertise you want it to tap into. It's the same thing if you need legal support. Let's say you're incorporating a new business. The persona you want a lawyer to help you with that. You don't want a chef. You want very specific legal advice. If you need help with tax season, you go to an accountant. So same, that's a persona. So if I need help with a website, I might want Gemini to act as a SEO expert that knows how to convert via websites and landing pages to get me new customers. And with a persona, you can also give it characteristics. You can have fun with it. Depending on your brand and your voice, you might want a persona that is more fun and easygoing if your brand is a more creative space, or you want it to be extremely actually judgmental and direct, because AI is simulating humans. And as humans, we can be kind a little bit. We want to give you a pat in the back and say, great job. We're afraid to tell you that thing that might be a crucial feedback. So with AI, the same thing. You got to tell it, hey, help me point out my gaps. I really want you to be objective here and not agreeable. So with persona, really also give it the characteristics depending on what you're looking for, in addition to that expertise, professional expertise you're looking to tap into. And then the second part of that is the format. Do you want a PDF file? Do you want a bulleted list? Do you want a document? Are you looking for code? You're looking for a presentation? If you don't give it the format, you're going to have to do more back and forth to get exactly to what you want. Then context. That's for your information, Gemini. You should know I have this budget, I have this timeline, and this is how I currently run my website. So give it really specific details about where you are in the process, what has worked so far, what hasn't. And then actually give it references. So examples of other websites you like, or things that you have already mapped out, upload a document with website copy that you already have, because most likely than not, you already have something. You're not starting fully from scratch. But if you are, then give it examples of other websites that you like. And then from then on, you evaluate, you iterate. We're not expected to have these prompts right away. And here's essentially what it ends up looking like, right? You have a task, a persona, a format, a context, and some references. And please revisit this framework as you get some prompts that do really well. Others will not perform as well. So you might try different phrasing. You can separate the prompts, like I mentioned, into projects, different phases. I always say set them up like IKEA level instructions, like you're building furniture. That's how you want to break down. And that's why I mentioned a good practice, just like Addie was saying, have your strategy on paper, understand how your current workflows work, so then you can automate it. And also introduce constraints. Tell it has to be less than 1,000 words, or don't use em dashes, don't use quotations. Really shape it into you and how you work. Make it work for you. Don't let it operate on its own. You have to be the manager of it. And that's how you're going to get it to work. So we're going to go into some demos. But as we wrap up prompting, what you'll see me do is go to my prompt library, which I'm going to share now. And this is my best recommendation for you all. Have a document like this that has your favorite prompts that you know are work, because you don't want to write them from scratch each time. I'm saying it's like the new love language. Everybody got to have a prompt playlist. And just like a good music playlist, share it with others. Don't gatekeep. Someone might have a really good prompt for creating social media, or for creating help with invoicing, for example. And if you're in a similar industry and you can learn from each other, share prompts. Or as you go to more events like this and you see a prompt that you really like, add it to your prompt library. That's like one-on-one good best practice as we start navigating these AI tools. But now let's actually go to Gemini here. For those that haven't seen it, this is where you chat with Gemini. And again, the cool part, you can add documents directly from your Google Drive. It is connected. And then there's some amazing tools like Nano Banana, which I explained if you want to create new fun images. product shoots for your products, etc. Then another tool that I want to make sure doesn't go underutilized is Canvas, which we're going to use today. And Canvas is good for any project that requires more documentation and you want to go into more collaboration with Gemini. So let me show you how it works. We're going to do it for a proposal prompt. So again, in business, you got to have a good product, like Adi was saying. Then the next part, but it actually got to sell. So you should always be selling. And one thing that I'm constantly doing is writing proposals. You also see some constraints that I added to this prompt to make it really specific to what I want. So let's start here. I'm gonna copy and paste again, because you don't want me to spend all this time typing. And we're gonna go into Canvas mode. So here's the copy and paste. So you can see what that looks like. Essentially, it's gonna open up this interface where it's gonna show the proposal draft, and you can actually directly edit it like a Google Doc until you get the final touch that you want. And then what I'm gonna show you next after that is a custom assistant I actually built. Because let's say if I'm creating proposals all the time, instead of having to prompt Gemini and open a new chat, what you can do is just have a custom assistant. It's called Gems in Gemini, where you can simply, anytime you a prospective client asks you for a proposal, you can go to the gem. It's already using your template and it will help create that for you. So essentially here is what the interface looks like. It created an initial proposal. Obviously is not done yet. It requires more editing. So what I'm going to do instead is show you how to do it with Gems. Here I have a proposal maker. So let's say I'm doing the same thing here. Instead of having to submit this large prompt, it knows exactly what I want. So here, saying I just have to put the potential customer's website. I always shout out Goodie Nation. They manage the Grow with Google coach. Let's say they're my prospective client. Let's say this is an events business. Goodie Nation is doing and looking their own events. I add the website. And then I want to make sure that I'm also adding the notes. Second here. It's loading here. Let me see as I do that if there's any questions in the chat. And I'll also go behind the scenes to show you how I built this custom assistant. I wanted to be a little specific, so I am going to add the notes that I had from Goodie Nation. Again, this is just for the sake of the demo. I'm adding some discovery notes to make the proposal really personalized for this client. And so it's going to make those edits. And now it's something that I can easily export to Google Docs and review. And then when it's ready, be able to send to that client. So I was able to use those notes from a meeting that I have about that potential event. And what's super cool, again, I'm like, oh, I actually don't like that title. I can remove it and edit it. And then it can even suggest edits for me and get into more consultant mode. And it will point out things I could change. And I can really work with Gemini to make this proposal perfect. So I really love these gems. And it really, what you'll notice that is different from the first template is that it's using my own, because I uploaded it into this custom assistant. So let me show you what it looks like. Well, here I can work with the edits. So it's really a collaborative way to work with a tool versus just getting some generalized output. So here how these gems work. It's 5 steps. I'll start here with what I was trying to share. I added my own proposal template. So it looks like it's truly mine, and it's using that to create the proposal. And then I can add notebooks. There's our other product, which I will show and end up the workshop with. They are Notebook is our research and note-taking assistant that Google has, where you can actually upload your own sources. So I have a notebook with previous proposals that have been successful. So it's learning from what I already know how to that has worked in the past to help me close a deal, and it's building proposals upon that. And again, I'm using Canvas as a default tool because I want to be in collaboration, have that open interface. And then I am giving it a huge prompt that is in the background of this custom AI assistant. It can be really overwhelming to create these prompts, but guess what? You're not alone. You can go here and you can ask Gemini, can you help me create gem instructions? Again, GEMS is the name for the custom assistant within Gemini for proposals. You would have to give it more and more context, of course, and then it will give you something that you can copy and paste into the gems that you see here. So again, you're not alone in that. It's super easy to create them in 5 easy steps. Then you just give them a name and a description, and mine is called Proposal Maker. It's very, very, very literal, and it's to help me create winning proposals. And as you see, I've done this with for customer support to help me answer emails as well. And I upload my own personal FAQ so it knows how to answer like me. So you can create gems for all these sorts of use cases, social media, marketing copy. And this is all for free using a personal Gmail. All right, I want to transfer into Gemini Notebook because it works really well within GEMS to help you create these custom AI assistants. So I want to make sure you know how it works. So I'm going to go into my notebooks. Again, this is also using my personal Gmail account. And let's see, for this example, I am going to go into this, let's say, one that I use for financials, which is hard for me, not the best. So here I uploaded a lot of tax documents. This is also for a fake demo company and events business that works with restaurants, food. So I uploaded all these sources because what you can do with your notebook is you upload your own sources. It's not Gemini going into his old huge data set and pulling things from anywhere or going into the web. You own the source of truth, and Gemini Notebook is only using your sources to help you make decisions or to create collateral. If you do need help finding sources, what's cool about Gemini Notebook, you can give it control. It can help you do deep research. So for example, help me find the latest with the events industry trends in 2026 if I need it for that particular business. And essentially it would give me sources that I can approve if I trust them or not approve, and they will become part of this notebook. And then what you can do is ask questions about these sources. For example, what can I do to be profitable next month? And it's using your own data for your business, your profit and loss statements, whatever you feel comfortable uploading. And just like a Google Doc, you can share this with other team members that you trust, and they have access to the same notebook, the same sources of truth that you do. So again, if you're worried about hallucination and not having control of where the AI is pulling their information, with Notebook, it is cited. You know which resource. See, I press on the source. It's tying back to a profit and loss statement that I uploaded for this business, and it's able to give me advice. So I'll stop there and realize I might have not making sure you can see the right tab. Awesome. I don't see any questions, so I will continue. This is an amazing tool, and you can also create audio podcasts as well, videos, informational videos like you see here.
Running a restaurant means razor-thin margins and constantly rising labor costs, but the industry gets exclusive tax breaks. Here is the ultimate year-end checklist to review with your CPA. First up,
for example, if I need help preparing for my accountant tax season, you can create briefing documents as well which is really helpful. And then you can actually interact with the video. So it's that interactive mode where you can join the conversation with the AI tool. So let me show you an example.
If you've been running a business for, more than a few months, you probably already know that your balance sheet is not just some passive record of what's in the bank.
Oh, definitely not. It's highly active.
Right. It is a
Hey there. Want to share your thoughts on this?
Yes, of course. Can you just help me think through best practices for how to make this business more profitable?
It's highly active. And you just hit on the core goal of every entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Everyone wants to know how to move that needle toward a bigger profit.
To make a business truly profitable, you have to look at your operating ratio.
So it's then responding based on the knowledge. So instead of me having to review sources that are 100 pages long, the AI can synthesize it all for me. I can have conversations with it and learn faster. So using Gemini Notebook and going into these studios is very, very helpful. You can also create slide decks. I know that's very common. Folks use case that's been really helpful, but there's also mind maps and all these amazing things. So Gemini Notebook is a great tool you can use with a personal Gmail, and you can share it with others as well, even your prospective clients. And again, once you have a notebook that has sources of truth, like a successful proposal notebook, you can actually link that notebook to your gems here. And that way you have custom assistants that are operating with your own sources of truth, like you saw me add my notebook here. So one takeaway from the session, we'd love you all to start using gems, to start creating a Gemini notebook, to then link your Gemini notebook to your custom assistants to get help around the things that are taking lots and lots and lots of time. So now I am out of time, and I want to make sure I wrap up with some resources from Grow with Google. I already went through all of this, but here is some links. Please go to grow.google/prompting or grow.google/AI essentials if you like some of this content and want to learn more. If you want certificates for your own career, go to grow.google/certificates. Or if you just want to keep up to date with all the features, which obviously are changing every day, that's the best way to stay on top of it. Just go to our YouTube. We're constantly posting resources there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and have a great rest of your week, everybody. I'll be monitoring the comments, so if any questions come up with things that you saw today, I'll be able to help out. Thank you so much.